Alright, the lore that got us here is a mess. It's all a bit confusing, but here we are anyway. Zereth Mortis and patch 9.2. And fair play to Blizzard, actually. Zereth Mortis is a rich, detailed, and inventive zone. It's lovely. It's just lovely to be in. It's backed up by superb musical work. Now I want you to think. Korthia! Brown, grey, oppressing sludge. The Maw. Steel grey, oppressing sludge. Patch 8.3. Here's a purple filter over a place you've been to before and a few new assets. Patch 8.2. Well, that was pretty damn cool. Patch 7.3. It had some cool new things, but a lot of, dark green angry stuff. Patch 7.2. Oh, dark green grey angry stuff. Blizzard have a tendency to send us into the bad guy's lair, or at least somewhere where the bad guy has corrupted everything. And as much as that can fit a story, ultimately it does mean that us players are asked to spend countless hours in drab hellscapes that end up being very boring. Korthia bored me to tears even before I saw its mechanics, and I know loads of other people felt the same. So, regardless of where this review goes, know that Zereth Mortis is a wonderful zone to be in. The art direction takes concepts that we've seen, and it pushes them further. I know the Giant's Causeway from Northern Ireland. We have some hexagonal rocks. Big win. The brokers. With the brokers, Blizzard takes what was already cool, and they push the brokers forward a little bit. Indeed, it's kind of funny that we see stiffness in the regular humanoid cast, and it actually leaves the literally robotic brokers to steal the show, being the more interesting characters. Sound design then, it's some of their best. Between the Otoma's vocalizations and the, really just perfect zone music, the creative teams have nailed it. It's just lovely to be in. All this would need to be one of Blizzard's best patch zones ever is solid game design. Does it have that? And do you have today's sponsor? Bespoke Post. Hit up that link down below. They're a sub box where you get a wild deal of $49 for what is at least 70 of value, often much more actually. And the great thing is how they do it, because you preview what you get beforehand. You can then pause, cancel, or swap boxes before the sub goes. So the point basically is that you get a great deal on stuff that you actually want to have. And as for what I've got, here's the bag. I don't have it because it's in my car right now because I use it regularly. Then the chef knives. The rest of them are at my apartment right now. These are awesome. Outdoor gear. Even we had some of the outdoor gear Nikki's taken camping with him. We've got the whiskey set, which of course saw a bit of use at our last Christmas party. Other things. Want to get into throwing knives? That's pretty cool. There's the Speakeasy cocktail kit, the Stealth EDC kit, and so many more things. So Bespoke Post are a perfect way to get quality fun for $49, help you get kickstarted into a new hobby, and get some cool new gear you'll actually use. So hit up my link down below and use the promo code Bellular20 for 20% off your first monthly box. And let's talk about WoW. Modern WoW has failed, not by a lack of delighting players, though that certainly is a problem, I think, but it's failed by wearing players down with abrasive designs that do not respect their time. Be it farming random conduit upgrades, farming renown to have your alts feel reasonable to play, legendary catch-up at certain points in Shadowlands' history. This expansion has been full of the team's trademark weaknesses, having narrow vertical progression broadened by busy work at the expense of a diverse endgame experience. So, before we work out if the new zone is good, we've got to work out if they've taken the pain points away. And this is actually where there is plenty of good news to share. Renown. They've stopped it. No more Renown. The new cipher of the first one's system somewhat takes the role of Renown as a thing you progress over weeks, but the cipher is not needed for player power. The previously added Renown 40 boost for alts does help a bunch, though that still is a bit of a chore getting from 40 to 80, but at the very least, Zereth Mortis content does just give you plenty of Renown as you go through it, so handy for catching up your alts. Conduits then. Good news, if you hit friendly with the new rep, then you'll get an item that gives you every conduit eye level 226. Hit revered, and it's the same, but 239. So far, there's no random conduit upgrades, which is good because they didn't respect your time. Now, we're a few days from launch as of me recording this video, so things could broadly change. It's a bit weird that there's not complete conduit coverage with Mythic Plus and raiding, but to be honest with you, the fact that you can't optimize your character by farming random upgrades, that's a good thing to me because I don't think they should be asking players to do something like that is so disrespectful of their time. So I think that's a big win, even though, yeah, the system feels a bit odd. But if you want to completely max out conduits, well, if you complete the new campaign and then hit the peak of your current content, be that, say, Mythic Raiding or Keystone Master, then you'll unlock an item that brings all your conduits to 278. No questions asked, done. It's just completely optimal. So that's nice. Legendaries then. Well, do you remember the drama about double legendaries being locked behind a rep? Well, there's good and bad news for this. The good news, everyone gets the double legendary belt from the campaign. The bad news, though, if you want to unlock the memory that is used to actually craft that power onto other slots, well, that is revered with the Enlightened rep. And also the belt that you get from the campaign is locked to eye level 265. Ah, Blizz, we were so close. Now, this does mean that if you're a Mythic Raider or a Key Pusher, you will be doing Zareth Mortis daily for the sake of player power, for crafting that second legendary on the slot that you want. But, at the very least, they have changed how the reputation rewards are basically structured, or the rep gains themselves are structured, such that you only need to do the daily guaranteed content in order to unlock that by the time you'll be able to craft your own legendary. So it doesn't seem like there's going to be a repeat of the Korthia rare hunting. If you do your dailies, you will hit revered in time without having to just farm rares for rep. So that is good. Legendaries though, I mean, does that mean more Torghast? Sort of yes and no. You'll obviously need Ashen Cinders if you don't already have a rank 6 legendary, but at the very least you are able to blast through Torghast mega fast on a geared character, and also the new boss rush mode that they've got for Torghast does drop plenty of those resources. Plus then you've got the legendary recycling of 9.1.5. That comes in handy. The new rank then, rank 7 legendaries? Well, those use Cosmic Flux. That's a new currency that basically drops from everything like Echoes of Nyalotha. And since the rank 7 legendaries are only available after a few weeks because the crafters will need to unlock crafting the base item, and that you'll get that flux passively by doing the stuff that you want, you shouldn't have to worry about it that much. I mean, if you do Mythic Plus, you get some flux. Do some raiding, you get flux. PvP, you get flux. Zareth Mortis world content, you get flux, and it's uncapped. So you shouldn't really need to worry about this cosmic flux massively, at least most players won't. And most importantly of all, that means you're probably not going to be grinding out content just to get flux, because you'll already have the flux from doing the content you want to do. But wait! The Cosmic Flux might suck for getting new alts ready. So Blizzard, add a bind on account packaged Cosmic Flux item to the vendor ASAP. Don't wait for 9.2.5. A good thing is that 9.2 has brought us packaged Soul Cinders, so that's great, but let's just keep the trend going. I find this to be a quality of life and usability thing. Something that just lets you play a new alt because you're excited to play that alt. I don't think that it should be left to a 0.5 patch. I just don't think it should be conceived of like that. Now, that's actually not all that Flux is used for, because I think it's 8 weeks in, a new mechanic unlocks that lets you turn regular gear into tier gear. So that's actually great for filling in drops. Now, there's a few unfortunate things for maybe complications for min-maxers regarding, getting a socket in gear, things like that. But for most players, it's a pretty great system. Or at least it's a good improvement. It's a way to be less frustrated by the drop RNG. Plus, some past lessons have been applied. Alts can skip the first 3 steps of the campaign and zoom straight ahead to having the full zone unlocked. That's great, but also it does mean that those quests are literally skipped, so you won't get the reputation with the Enlightened faction, you'll miss out on some resources. That's not ideal. Blizz, come on, people have already done it in their main. Just give him the rep. Come on, it's like a little boost for an ult. It'll feel good to people. Of course, though, there'll be more to talk about in the realm of silly things when we get to the cipher of the first ones, which is a little bit mixed, to be honest. So on the whole, then, this patch does fight with you less. It does not constantly feel like it is basically nagging you to play it, which very much is what Blizzard's reward design has felt like in the past. It is some of the most insane reward design that I've seen in a game, and I don't know how they've persisted with so much of it for so long. For the majority of players, this is all a big step up, and that is great. As always, if you metagame at 1000%, you're going to find some problems. Do you want to go Venthyr for raiding? Maybe Necrolord for Mythic Plus? Well, I hope you enjoy farming Renown via running repeated Torghast 9s. Patch 9.2 doesn't extend the Covenant system, but it does inherit it. And while it's nowhere near as bad as it used to be, I can very much tell you that getting my Hunter to Renown level 80 just so I could get the boost for my Mage, that felt terrible, even though it absolutely was the correct thing to do, per the design of their systems. So, World of Warcraft no longer busts down your door, beats you to a pulp and scalps you. Good. The reasons not to play are diminished. But wait, this is a video game. What about the reasons to play? What about 9.2? Well, this is where we're going to start with word salad. And I think this is going to be an issue, one larger than they think. Seriously, Blizzard have went so hog wild on words that are just going to confuse and bewilder people. Protoform synthesis, Treblim understanding, Genesis motes, progenitor essentia, crystallic cepheroids. There's another type of cepheroids as well. And more! Now look, I totally get Blizzard wanting to theme all this stuff up, but I actually think they went too far. Just thinking about all of it could make people wander off, and there are also a lot of just names and flavor text that don't really feel core Warcraft, much like, yeah, plenty of this patch, to be honest. It's a bit different and new, and I think for a lot of people, they're just going to bounce off that from a very thematic level. It's, of course, hardly a surprise we have all these funny words, given how the cipher of the first ones is our main Zereth Mortis progression. It offers numerous different zone perks, powers, the new protoform synthesis system, and zone efficiency increases, plus a whole bunch of things for your for Pokopok, your little sort of minion friend. And that does make it a must-have for people who want to go in and get the rewards from this zone, which of course is mostly going to boil down to the usual things: mounts, pets, and transmog. The downside of the cipher, and I think the reason why it's really going to get a bad rap from players, is the research time. This feels horrible. Straight up horrible. For some inexplicable reason, the genius reward designers at Blizzard have put significant research times behind a number of the perks. So here's the UI, right? You can research one thing in every one of those columns in parallel, and that is nice. The timers are not nice. Initially, the timers are in seconds, right? So some of the just little incremental upgrades, you get them very quick. But soon you start to notice 18-hour timers, and then you start to notice that many of the more exciting things take days. Some take just over 6 days. This is utter nutty insanity. When somebody farms up the resource to unlock a perk, give them the damn perk. Actually, I remember there was somebody who was a motivational psychology researcher hopped in to my Twitter a few days ago, and they were talking about how basically the Great Vault and basically the separation of action and reward breaks a whole bunch of pretty fundamental brain wiring shit. And I think certainly the same is going to happen here. And Blizz, you don't need to double time gate. People have already put the work in to get the ciphers to do the research, so just give them the reward. I mean, what's the worst thing that happens? Somebody unlocks the mount farming a few days earlier than someone else? So, Blizz, enough with this buzzkill bullshit. When you unlock a toy, you're excited to play around with it, and Blizz, you just then tell the person that's excited that they have to wait a few days. That's stupid. The bright side is that your alts will have instant research times, but obviously that doesn't solve the issue in mains, and that does not solve the negative impact that this will have on players' first impressions of this patch. And for a game in a rocky position like WoW, first impressions count. This is a bafflingly stupid design decision to the point where I do sort of question the competence of those behind it. If I was to think a bit deeper into that, and, try to apply one of the many cognitive razors, I could maybe say that it's a misguided attempt to level out people's progress in the zone. Maybe it's there for pacing, various things like that. Basically the usual Blizzard solving problems that players really don't care about, and obviously the solution being worse than the problem. So, while some of those things that would have led to Blizzard doing the timer may have value, I think it's insignificant in the face of the experiential downsides of this system. But then again, Blizzard designing with an extreme amount of defensiveness is a very normal thing. Or perhaps they know all of this, but they themselves have a years-long research timer when it comes to, actually learning lessons. Yeah, so those instant research times for alts are nice, but while that's appreciated, it shouldn't be needed, shouldn't be like this. As for the cipher itself, it's odd. Loads of the upgrades are based on Pokopok, who is the little companion that you get for this zone. And you know what? Pokopok is great. I like the idea. You unlock the wee guy, you customize him, you can have different, visuals. You can augment his combat abilities. He's involved in some world mechanics. And that's all really nice. It's not just a game system, it's actually tying it to a little character. There's a bit of a darker side. I feel iffy about it, and that is energy. Yeah, he has an energy cap of 10, and you regen 1 energy every 6 minutes. This is literally done by mobile games. And I get why Blizzard are doing this. It's probably to pace out your progress and give you a nice curve. But whenever mobile games do this, and, they'll often have recharge times and energy caps are like that. Whenever mobile games do that, it's because they're wanting you to spend some gems to refill your energy. Here, it just doesn't make much sense. Again, it can make sense from a top-level systems design where a systems designer is trying to pace out, the power progression curve of a player within Zereth Mortis. But the thing that matters to a player is how it actually feels when it's in their hands. And the game feel of that energy system is not great. So once again, I think it's Blizzard being a little bit disconnected from that player experience. Now, the cipher of the first one's upgrade system does include things that increase the energy cap and the regen rate, but it still feels bad to me. Look, I don't like the idea of somebody wanting to do a thing that requires energy, but say by getting some of the zone buffs and maybe opening one of the little, puzzle chests, they've used most of their energy. Maybe they need 2 more. I don't want to have a situation where people are just told, you have to wait 12 minutes. That's not a good feeling. I mean, getting zone buffs costs Pokopok energy. Opening those chests costs some Pokopok energy. Doing some of the other things with the Otoma costs the energy. Choosing between those doesn't feel fun. And yeah, sure, Pokopok will get more energy, a higher cap, faster recharge, and it might feel good to be able to do more things, a week on from now. But the initial limitation feels arbitrary, and I just don't think it's great for the game experience. Now, making Pokopok more powerful, maybe him giving us some new zone utility, that feels really natural, and that feels good. It feels like you're actually upgrading the wee guy. But this sort of thing, a bit less so. Now, you progress through the cipher of the first one system by collecting ciphers. It's a currency that you get from just doing loads of stuff. The basic progress here is going to feel pretty decent, but the timer just feels really off, especially for the likes of protoform synthesis, which is Blizzard's replacement for mount farming from rare mobs. Yeah, this is a bit more daring. Where Korthia just had rares to kill for mounts, Zereth Mortis only has 1 mount that drops from a rare. This is basically the Mechagon mount crafting wrote large. There's a downside, and it's the cipher of the first ones. You have to wait 10 days. Yeah, that's it. Just wait 10 days. That is how long it takes to unlock this feature if you beeline for it through the cipher of the first one system. And I think that that's just rough. And the other rough thing is the resources needed for the protoform synthesis system, at least from, the mounts are 10 days, the pets you get sooner, but the resources only drop once you have protoform synthesis unlocked, which is a good few days into the patch. I would just say, why not let people work on this from day one? I mean, if you unlocked the protoform synthesis on day one, then you would see all the cool rewards that you could earn in this patch. It would be a good first impression. You could start to work towards them. It would spark some excitement on patch day. That doesn't happen, so it just feels dumb. And I have to wonder, like, how many players are just going to miss out on this system? Like the people who, you know, they just sort of take things very face value. They don't read Wowhead. Could they actually miss that this thing exists? Now, there's a pet version of Protoform Synthesis 2 that's actually one of the prerequisites for the one that like builds mounts. That only takes like 4 days to get to. But as for the mounts, just to talk about some of that process, so you farm up Genesis motes for basically powering the crafting. There's a lattice that you need. The lattice is just of the basic mobs type, so if you wanted, you know, I don't know, like a wolf mount, you get a wolf lattice, and then a rare blue item. And those blue items can just come from various different things, like, you know, killing a mob, looting a treasure, things like that. The lattices, then, they drop from just killing a mob of that mount's type, and then the motes you just get from doing stuff. And also there's the recipes as well, loads of which are just found around the world. But realistically speaking, add-ons and Wowhead comments are going to carry you here. Now, versus farming rares, I vastly prefer this system. I mean, imagine sitting in the middle of Korthia just waiting for map icons, perhaps in a few characters a day. Like, ugh, that's horrible. But with this, you could just target the rare items that you need and farm up the rest. Way better. You'll make progress towards mounts, like, almost by accident. I think it'll just make the zone feel more rewarding to players, so I think it's vastly superior. Now, some things have obviously got a bit of RNG, that's totally fine. Others are exploration, though. It's quite a nice, flexible system, really. I just say, Blizz, drop the dumb cipher timer, and we could really be onto a winner here. Oh, also, as you spend currency in the cipher system and work your way through it, you actually upgrade the item level of the cipher gear that drops from doing content, like the Fill the Bar quest, the dailies, the world quest, things like that. And it's pretty neat zone gear because there's loads of zone-wide benefits, even the ability to permanently socket in some of the buffs that are part of the Pokepox system. It's nice, and eventually that can be item level 252, which is normal mode raid gear, but with a bunch of buffs that make it feel particularly strong in Zereth Mortis. So I think that's a pretty neat little system, actually. It'll definitely keep the weekly content rewarding for those who don't do high-end content, and that's great. Beyond that, then, we've even got the Sandworn gear. It's a bit slower to earn, but it's a really nice transmog set. But it really is quite slow, though. It's just earned through rares, dailies, and then Sandworn chests that do require just a little bit of a farm to get the keys for. So then we've got good gearing, we've got excellent art, we've got excellent music, we've got a cool new take on mounts and pets, a fun little companion, and then, of course, an iffy timer added to a not particularly interesting tech tree. The theming here is strong. Whether you like it or not will be personal preference based on the direction of WoW, but it is well executed for what it is. Their willingness to have more quality of life from day one is good. Their, keeping a bit more of the player power away from the rep, that's also good. So there's lots of refreshing things here, but the stumbles are very typical of the WoW team and therefore feel very unnecessary. Baffling, really. Losses that the team just does not need to take, but they seemingly decide to anyway. But very little of what I've talked about so far has been actually playing the game, right? This has just been stuff, systems, progression. What about the playing the game bit? Well, look, there's no surprises here. 9.2 is a slice of WoW endgame zone. It has daily quests, it has world quests, events, side quests, collectible lore that's kind of neat, you know? But gameplay-wise, it's not standout, it's standard. It's standard, but with less things that fight with you. So if you just want to go in, grind up some WoW MMO stuff, get some cool rewards, get a cool mount, you can do that in this zone. And you can do it better than you have in many previous zones like this. So that's pretty solid. But it still is Shadowlands, and that's not going to massively resonate with people. Which is a shame. I mean, at the very least, it doesn't fight with you as much. It doesn't make you feel pissed off. I mean, take Flight. That's a really great example. It's a very simple set of goals to hit, and then with campaign chapter 6, which I believe is week 3, you just unlock Flight. That's it, done. And that's perfectly timed for when the zone would start to feel a bit slow. That's like way better executed than how they've done Flight previously. So overall, for me, where am I thinking? Well, I'm not thrilled. Not thrilled with this patch. I'm content. Really, what I would like to see is how this, plus a few more learnings, none of this stupid shit, come on, how that would apply to an expansion with a theme that I enjoy more, with a story that's not, well, frankly, pants. So this is just another WoW endgame zone. And, I remember how the Isle of Caldenas was quite new and different and very clear in its theme. How the Argent Tournament was very much feeling like its own thing. Same even goes for the Isle of Thunder and the Timeless Isles after that. But ever since they kind of went on this big bender of rares and treasures just being the jazz for everything, it's like they've been continually trying to recapture the Timeless Isles magic. And I guess what I really want to see is something radically different. Something that is not iterative. Something that is a evolution of what this looks like in the game. The last evolution we really had was Timeless Isle, and it feels like we've been treading water trying to recapture that ever since. Even though the Timeless Isle itself was, pretty simple. So that's what Blizzard needs to truly get people back. And perhaps, as this rejection of major player power being tied into these zone reps, perhaps as that seeps in, Blizzard will start building new zones for just a general gameplay purpose that is not something for Mythic Plussers and Raiders to spend time in to get useful items to go back into their endgame pillar content. I mean, for other things, raid-wise, I don't know, I haven't done the testing, but it's a WoW raid, so you know what you're getting into. I know some people are pissed off at the split between the weeks, but honestly, if that serves the story and it makes sense for the design, I'm happy. Yeah, you could call it time gating in a very pejorative way for World of Warcraft, but if FF14 did it and they said it was for design and narrative reasons, I don't think people would roast them for it, so we'll try to be fair there. I mean, sure, there's some downsides with the way they've split the raid, but the upside is a cool community moment and a strong narrative experience. So, if it's worth it, then that's great. As for the likes of, say, raid gear, I mean, the new tier's grand. I still think about Master Loot. Where is that? I just want Guild Master Loot. That's it. Guild Master Loot. I know, I say this word and people just start appearing in the comments and they're frothing at the mouth. And I just say, quit the bitching, come on. If you're playing with a guild that can't be trusted, or you think that wanting it for guild groups is elitist, then I don't know what to say. You shouldn't be in that guild if you couldn't trust your GM or your officers to do Master Loot and distribute loot for the team fairly. That's a bad guild, get out of it. Or if you don't play in a guild, then it literally wouldn't matter because all we want is Master Loot for guild groups only. If I look at Mythic Plus, it's like, yeah, seems the new FX is decent. I wouldn't know otherwise. Tazavesh Mythic Plus, that's nice enough to get. I'm not burnt out in M Plus because I've not really done it that much. I'd probably enjoy it in Frost, but look, you know me. I like old school dungeons. I am not so much into the timers and the sort of zoom texture of playing that content. And I know a lot of other people agree with me, so, M+, it is what it is. And the Great Vault, it still exists. I've already said my piece in that, you can hit up that video. PvPers, well, you get a new arena, so that's nice, and you get the solo queue arena mode. And that is actually brilliant, because we're finally seeing the team engage with the community request that's genuinely challenging to solve. Now, it's going to be the main way to farm honor in 9.2, so let's hope the solo queue brawl works out well. I at least like the idea, and I like what it represents. But I would like a raft of new battlegrounds, or solo queue RBGs, if I was to have PvP that would sort of fit what I would enjoy more. So where am I left then, on this patch? What am I going to do? Well, the answer is, yeah, I'm coming back. I'm going to enjoy Frost for a bit. I've given up an MM. I just don't enjoy it post BFA revamp, but I've made peace with that. Probably going to get a selection of mounts that I want because I like how they look, and I'll see how this utter situation of a narrative unfolds. Will I go for ahead of the curve? Well, look, the state of patch 9.1 and the Blizzard lawsuit killed our guild's will to raid. So I made it a 7 out of 10 heroic last time. I'll almost certainly get normal cleared, and I think that'll be fun enough, but at this stage, I don't even know if our guild can field a stable heroic raid team over that number of weeks. So I think there's enough for me to come back. I'm going to come back for a bit, maybe a few months. I'm not going to do anything super hardcore. It's probably only going to be 1 or 2 months, maybe 3 at a stretch. And then, of course, I'll just have to sit there and hope that the next WoW expansion rights the ship and takes us back. But I'm not going to go super hard because I don't want to burn out. I don't want to burn myself out like in this patch and then not enjoy the new expansion. Also, there's Final Fantasy XIV. There's Elder Scrolls Online, Guild Wars 2, Star Wars The Old Republic, and many other games to play, even beyond the MMOs. And I just cannot see how extreme farming Zareth Mortis, doing Mythic Plus again and again and again on an alt, I just don't see how they can stand up to the novelty of having a more varied gaming diet. Not, anyway, until Warcraft is back feeling like Warcraft. This feels like Warcraft and Destiny had a baby. And maybe I'm more okay with those things than most people, but I know for a lot of people, Warcraft ain't this. And they need to get a handle on their overall creative direction so that it meshes with their player base. Because right now they're exploring their own ideas, and it feels like they're doing that really in complete isolation from what the player base actually enjoys. Because I don't think we've had a good narrative in World of Warcraft for years at this stage. Okay, that's it. That is my overall thoughts on patch 9.2 as we head into it and what I'm going to be doing. So I hope you found that interesting. Of course, if you would like to support the channel and also get some cool stuff like these delicious chef knives, check out Bespoke Post with my link down below. And with that said, I'll see you next time.